Northern Light. I am
Yeah,
at
the
the
Northern
Northern
Lights. Very good. The other name for the Northern Lights is the Aurora Borealis. I'm just sending a quick message to you, to your Zoom group. So we'll get anyone in that's not in yet.
Teacher.
Yes.
Your sound is cackling and yours, and when I see your screen is a little bit lag. I think you have low Wi-Fi.
You mean lag?
Yeah. Most likely. Down here, it tends to be good until it's not, and then it gets all laggy and
It's like
As
yeah, I
you
just got the
are
notification.
doing
My
any
internet's
movements.
unstable.
You are doing any movements. You are showing your hand and then you stop.
it's like lag.
Is that any better?
Not
a
better.
bit.
It is
It's-
still lag,
It's like a bit better.
but it's still lagging.
I don't know. It must just be bad internet connections today. Okay, so what I would like to focus on is I would like to focus on going into a little bit more detail in the construction of our debate speeches, because while you guys did follow my follow the instructions that I gave.
Okay, it's a lot better now.
Excellent. Good. So yeah, I want to focus on the
But your
construction.
screen is a little blurry.
That'll fix in a second. So yeah, I want to focus on the construction of a good debate speech. Because while you guys did follow my instructions very well, I realized that the instructions that I gave created debate speeches that were just a little bit too short. So I would like to go through, how to construct a good debate speech in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to share my screen. And so what I've done is, as you see, these 6 documents here, they are all about each part of the debate teams and what a good speech for that person looks like. So we'll start with the first proposition speaker, of course. And I've broken each speech down into, why is this not wanting to work?
So the document showed that what the first opposition speaker
Very
do.
good. That's correct. So as we see here, I've got a list of all of the parts that a speech for the first opposition should look like, and then I've also got an example speech. So I'll talk to you guys, and I'll post all of these documents in your Zalo group so you can have a read of them and have a look at a good example. So I'll read out the list, and then I'll get someone in class to read out the example speech, and then we can spend a minute or so talking about all of those parts and how they appeared in the how they appear in that speech. So the first thing that we want to do is obviously make sure that we have an introduction. So this is where we want to start by greeting the audience and the opposing team. We might also include the judges, the interlocutor, just welcoming everyone to the debate and saying hello. And then next, we want to clearly state the topic of the debate. So we want to let everybody know what the actual topic is. And once we've stated that topic, then we can go on to present our team's position, which is also known as the motion for the affirmative team. Once we've done that, the next thing we want to include is an opening statement. So this is where we provide an easy to understand and short little statement that just outlines the main argument of our team. So this isn't just supporting the motion, this is starting to let the audience know like what we're going to be arguing to prove our point. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. And once we've done that, we want to explain the importance and the relevance of the topic. So why is this topic important enough for us to be debating? And what does it have to do with the people debating it and the audience listening to the debate? So after that, we want to go into definitions and context. So we want to start by explaining any important terms or concepts about the topic. And we want to make sure that everybody understands them and that there's no misunderstanding about anything. We want everyone to know exactly what we're arguing. And then we want to provide any important information to help the audience understand the issue better. So this could be our first chance to provide a bit of evidence, maybe some important statistics. And the topic that I've chosen for this example throughout these 6 sheets is it's climate change, basically, that we need to do more with renewable energy to stop climate change.
Okay.
So next, we have our points and our arguments. So the first speaker wants to present 3 or 4 main points that support the team's position on the topic. So this is like laying out the team line, where you explain which arguments each of your team members will be arguing. So you want to make sure each point is well researched. And of course, I always go on about this. We want to make sure that there's lots of evidence, examples, and statistics to make our case as strong as possible. And then we want to clearly explain the reasoning behind each point and why that makes our case stronger. Next, we want to actually start preparing for rebuttals. So we want to start by anticipating or guessing some of the arguments that maybe the other team is going to use against us. And you just want to quickly just address them nice and shortly. Nice and quickly. And we also want to show that we understand the opposing team's side of the argument, but we still want to make sure that we're saying that while they believe this, we still think that our side of the argument is more true, our side is better, we have the stronger argument. Next, we want the conclusion. So this is where we summarize the main points that we've just talked about, and we want to reinforce the importance of our team's position and why our side of the argument is the right one. And just a couple of little points to consider is that we want to use a technique called signposting And that is where we make it really obvious to the audience which part of our argument we're delivering. So as you're driving down the road and you see all of those signposts on the side of the road that tell you where you're going, they're very, very big. They're very, very obvious. Everyone can see them. Everyone can read them. And the way we do that in a speech is just by saying words like firstly, secondly, in conclusion. So we know, so the audience knows which part of the speech that we're up to. And of course, time management. We want to make sure that we pay attention to the time limits, and we want to make sure that our speech fits within the time we've been given to speak. Okay, so I've got an example here, an example speech. So I would like to ask, can I get Chips, please? Chips, can I get you to read this speech out for me, please?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and respected opponents, I stand before you today as the first speaker of the affirmative team to argue in the favor of motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. We firmly believe that this step is crucial in the addressing the pressing challenges posed by climate change and securing a sustainable future for generations to come. Let me now present our arguments in the support of this proposition. Firstly, it is undeniable that the world is facing a climate crisis of unpredicted proportions.
Unprecedented proportions.
Unprecedented proportions. Greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuels have led to rising global temperatures, extreme weather events, and the loss of biodiversity. By significantly increasing the use of renewable energy sources, such as solar, wind, and hydroelectric power, we can substantially reduce our carbon footprint and curb the adverse impacts of climate change. Transitioning to renewables is not only environmentally responsible, but also economically advantageous as it opens doors to innovation and job creation in the rapidly expanding green energy sector. Secondly, reliance on finite fossil fuels poses security and geopolitical risk. Many nations are heavily dependent on fossil fuel imports, which can lead to volatile energy prices and geopolitical tensions. By harnessing renewable energy sources, which can lead to volatile energy prices and geopolitical tensions. By harnessing
renewable.
Sorry, my mom is calling me.
No worries.
Where did I read?
By right here where my
By
mouse is.
harnessing renewable energy sources that are
Abundantly.
abundantly available within our borders, we can enhance energy independence and reduce vulnerability to external energy supply disruptions. This, in turn, fosters a more stable and secure global energy landscape, promoting international cooperation and peace. Thirdly, increase of renewable energy sources will lead to improved public health outcomes. Fossil fuels are associated with air pollution,
Associated.
which negatively impacts
Respiratory.
respiratory health and
Exacerbates.
exacerbates cardiovascular diseases. By transitioning to cleaner energy alternatives, we can
Significantly. Significantly.
significantly reduce air pollution levels, leading to healthier communities and lower health care costs. Additionally, renewable energy technologies are less water intensive than conventional power plants, conserving this precious resource and ensuring its availability for essential needs in
Essential needs.
essential needs in
Good.
anticipation of
Anticipation.
counter arguments. We recognize that some may claim the renewable energy sources are not as
As
reliable or cost-effective as fossil fuels. However, advancements in technology have
significantly.
significantly improved the efficiency and
Efficiency.
affordability of renewables. Additionally, investing in renewable energy now will lead to long-term cost savings and the cost associated with environmental degradation and climate change impacts will be avoided. In conclusion, increase the use of renewable energy sources is not just an option, but the necessity of the face of the global climate crisis. By embracing clean, sustainable energy, we can safeguard our planet, strengthen energy security, and promote public health. The benefits of transitioning to renewable energy are vast and far-reaching, and it is our moral and practical duty to take decisive. I read decisive action.
Good
and
job.
The time to act is now, and I urge you to support this motion to pave the way for a brighter and sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chips. Well done. Okay. Yes.
Emma said, can you full screen? And Emma said the words are a little bit small, so she couldn't read.
I can, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to post those documents in your Zalo group. So if you guys have access to the Zalo group, then all of those documents are now there.
Teacher, do
Yeah,
you have a messenger group?
the homework group. So the homework debate Happy Land group. That's the one I've sent it
Do you
to.
have a messenger group?
A messenger group,
Yeah,
as in Facebook
only
Messenger.
have messenger group. I only have messenger. I don't have Zalo.
Ah, okay. Yes.
I am in your public speaking class last night.
I noticed that. Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Good. We've got lots of fun. We've got lots of fun topics coming up over the next few weeks.
Why did you play block at the? I mean, when I come in, I see everyone playing.
At the beginning. So before it became the class that it is now, we actually, it was like a weekly speech club, and we'd always get it started by playing a game of Blue Kit. And so that's just an old habit that I had.
Yay! I
'Cause I
am
needed
expertise.
I needed a few minutes to, I needed a few minutes to just finalize my preparations for the class. So I
If
just got
you
everyone to
have
play
a
a game of
messenger
Blue Kit.
group, can you send it to me so I can join?
The public speaking class, absolutely.
You
Okay, so I just want to go through that speech. So very well read, Chips. You made a very, very good effort, and you read very well. There weren't many words in there that we needed to correct. So very well done. So we saw in the speech that Chips just read out, we had a quick introduction there, greeting the audience, the opposing team. We clearly stated the topic of the debate and the team's stance. So we saw all of these parts that we read out at the beginning and how they all come together to create a good speech for the first proposition speaker. So we'll move on now into the first opposition speaker, and let's have a look at what they need to say.
and chips the cookie.
Oh, bless. Okay, so when we're talking about first opposition speaker, can you see that a bit better, Emma?
I can see it better now.
Good, 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 good. Okay, so again, the first
It's
thing
really better now.
Excellent, I'm glad. So the first thing that the first negative speaker or the first opposition speaker needs to include is, again, their introduction. So they need to greet the audience and the opposing team. They need to restate the topic of the debate, but they, of course, need to clearly state that they are against the topic, that they don't believe it. Next, when it comes to defining the motion, we need to clarify the meaning of the motion and any terms that may be open to interpretation. So that's one of the good things about having a debate, is that with your two different sides of the argument, you can actually argue two completely different points to try to disprove the other team. After we've redefined the motion, the opposition team has a concept called the burden of proof. And the best way that I can sum that up is if we use, so if we talk about somebody in court that's been charged with, let's say they've been charged with, they stole something from a shop, for example. It's not up to the person who's on trial. It's not up to them to prove that they did not steal. It's up to the police to prove that the person did steal. And that's called burden of proof. So you need to be able to prove that I did what you're accusing me of, or in the sense of this debate, you need to prove that you need to prove why you agree with this motion. You need to prove why you're right. I don't need to prove why you're wrong. So we have the burden of proof. We explain that the burden of proof lies with the affirmative team because they have this responsibility to present a strong case in favor of the motion. We need to emphasize, really make a big point about the negative team's role, that their job is to challenge the affirmative team and their arguments, and they need to demonstrate why their case is not compelling enough to accept the motion. We've got our main arguments and rebuttals. So we need to present again 3 to 4 main arguments that challenge the points made by the affirmative team.
My mom has a Huawei band.
Your mum has a what?
A new Huawei Band 8.
Wait, are we
She
talking about a
said
new phone?
something about band.
I thought I heard something about Huawei, the phone brand. And I'm like, oh, someone's got a new phone.
No, it's the band. It is like a mini phone.
Ah, okay. Yep. We're talking about technology. I was on it. I was on the money. Okay, so we need to make sure that we present 3 to 4 main arguments that challenge the points made by the affirmative team. Each argument, again, should be well researched and supported by evidence, examples, or statistics. Oh, it's like a watch. That's cool. And we need to clearly explain the reasoning behind each argument and how it weakens the affirmative team's position. So we're already going after them to make their arguments weaker. We need to start constructing our counter case. So we need to announce a different opinion or a different point of view that supports the negative team's position. And we need to offer constructive and compelling reasons to reject the affirmative team's case. So we can't just say, well, they're wrong, we're right, believe us. We have to have some really good reasons as to why we're right, why they're wrong, and why the audience should believe us. We need to start preparing some rebuttals. So we need to anticipate the potential responses from the affirmative team. And we need to demonstrate that we know what they might say to try and weaken our case. And then we need to briefly address these potential counter arguments to show that the negative team has considered their points. Because remember when we were talking about originally, when I was giving you guys some topics and you were all giving me your honest, true opinions. And then I told you that in a debate, you might sometimes have to argue points that you don't really believe. But the reason we do that is to show that you've considered all points of view, to show that you have that you can think about the argument from not just your own point of view. And that is an important skill to have. Finally, we need our conclusion. So we need to summarize the main arguments presented. And we need to remind the audience and the judges what our team's position is and why the affirmative team has not met that burden of proof. Why haven't they shown that they are right yet? Okay, Miss Emma, can I get you please to read this example speech?
You mean read all of it?
Yep.
Okay, let me just get my mic work. Okay. Can I start reading now?
No, I want you to wait 5 minutes and then start reading.
Okay.
I'm teasing, you can go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, what?
distinguished
distinguished judges, and esteemed opponents. As the first speaker of the negative team, I rise to address the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. While we
acknowledge
acknowledge the
importance
of sustainable energy solutions, we firmly believe that the motion put forth by the affirmative team is not without its flaws. Allow me to present our arguments against this proposition. Firstly, it is essential to recognize that while renewable energy sources have their
merits,
they cannot entirely replace fossil fuels in immediate future. The
intermittency
intermittency is unpredictably of renewable sources like solar and wind power pose significant challenges to energy stability. Unlike traditional power plants, which can provide steady and reliable energy supply, renewables are subject to weather conditions and require expensive energy storage system to
mitigate fluctuation
until we develop more
efficient
and cost-effective storage technology.
Solely
Relying on renewables would risk compromising our energy grids
reliability.
Secondly, this transition to renewable energy is a massive scale
necessitates substantial
upfront investment, while proponents of the motion argue for the long-term cost benefits. The intermediate financial burden cannot be ignored. Many nations, especially developing ones, may struggle to afford the initial cost of
implementing
renewable infrastructure. These costs would lead to higher energy prices for customers, potentially burdening low-income households and hampering economic growth. In contrast, fossil fuels, a more affordable and accessible energy option, particularly for regions heavily reliant on coal or oil. Furthermore, increasing of renewable energy sources can have
unintended
environmental consequences. The production disposal of renewable technologies such as solar panels and wind turbines involve use of rare metal and chemicals that can harm ecosystem. Additionally, large-scale wind and solar projects can lead to a habit of destruction and land use conflict. As we advocate for sustainability, it is essential to consider the full environmental impact of our energy choices, not just in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. Lastly, the pursuit of renewable energy should not overshadow, although we need to invest in clean technologies that complement existing energy sources. Advances in clean coal and natural gas technologies combined with carbon capture and storage show
Promising.
promising potential to reduce emissions while maintaining energy reliability, neglecting these
Transitional.
transitional technologies could hinder our ability to affect address climate change while we wait for renewable energy to reach its full potential. In conclusion, the negative team recognized the significance of renewable energy sources in the global fight against climate change. However, we firmly contend that a hastily
Exclusive.
exclusive push towards renewables may we have adverse effects on energy reliability, economic growth, and the environment. Our stance is not dismiss the importance of renewables, but to advocate a more balanced approach, one that integrates cleaner technologies and consider practical challenges. We face the present. We urge you to reject the motion and consider a more comprehensive and sustainable energy strategy. Thank you.
Very well done, Emma. Very well done. So Chips has some peanuts and iced tea. Why aren't you sharing, Chips? That's just rude. Okay, so no, very, very good work, guys. There are a lot of big words in these speeches, and the reason is I've gone for examples that are likely to do very well in debating competitions, because as we've discussed in class, a debate is a very formal conversation. So it's not just, it's not like something like we're doing now, where where even though we're learning, it's still quite a casual kind of conversation. So yes, the language used needs to reflect, I suppose, the seriousness of the conversation that we're having. Okay. So now we're up to the second speaker of the affirmative team. And so, of course, we start with our introduction. So again, we've got to greet the audience, acknowledge the opposing team. We've got to recap the motion and your team's position on the topic. So remind the audience, we are the affirmative team. We believe the motion. And then we want to briefly summarize the main arguments that were presented by the first speaker of the team. So again, we're constantly reminding the audience of what's been said by our teammates. So as we can see here, sorry, not as we can see here, because yeah, as we've talked about in the past, and as you can actually see by the speeches we've been given, there's lots of information, lots of big, long, crazy words in these speeches. So it's always good to keep reminding the audience and the judges about our arguments, because we want them to remember our points of view. It's raining peanuts.
Grab one.
Okay. Yum. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to reinforce and expand our arguments. So we want to, again, remind the audience of the main arguments put forth by the first speaker. We want to provide additional evidence, examples, or statistics to strengthen the team's position. And we want to clarify any points that may have been challenged by the negative team in the previous speeches. So during the rebuttal of the negative team, we want to just clarify any points that they may have challenged to keep our argument as strong as possible. So we want to address counter arguments by responding to them or responding to any counter arguments raised by the first negative speaker. We want to disagree or argue against their points with reasoned arguments and supporting evidence. So we can't just come across and say, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. Here's why. We need to be able to say, that's wrong. Here's why. And here's the evidence to support the fact that that's wrong. And we want to show the flaws in the negative team's reasoning. And we want to reaffirm the superiority of the affirmative team's case. So we want to show so we want to show where they're going wrong in challenging us. And we want to show that our case is much stronger and much better than the negative team's case. We want to present new evidence and new examples. So we want to introduce new evidence or examples that further support our team's position. We want to ensure that the evidence is credible and relevant to the debate topic. So that goes back to what we were talking about. Evidence, it needs to be on topic. Why are we having a food emoji party? Okay, so we need to connect the new evidence to the existing arguments to create a more comprehensive case. So when we were talking about before arguing as part of a team rather than just 3 individuals, this is what I was talking about. So if you can grab more evidence to make what the first speaker said stronger, then present more arguments to make your case even stronger, then more evidence to support those new arguments. See how you're just building a tower of just strong arguments? And that is what will win a debate. We want to consider the impact and significance. So we want to explain the implications or explain what it means to accept the affirmative team's position and believe the motion. We want to highlight the potential benefits of increasing the use of renewable energy sources. So this is just specifically to do with this debate, but whatever the topic is, that's what you're trying to highlight the benefits of. And you want to emphasize the positive impact it can have on the environment, the economy, and society as a whole. So you're just showing how widespread the benefits can be of accepting your motion. Again, we want to prepare rebuttals and try and guess what counter arguments the next speaker is going to make. And we want to try and refute them before they've even had a chance to say them. And we want to show again that the affirmative team has considered their opponent's viewpoints and that they're ready to respond to them effectively. Finally, the conclusion. We want to summarize the key points made in the speech. We want to once again remind everybody that we are the affirmative team. We believe the motion, and this is why it's important. And we want to encourage the audience and the judges to support the affirmative team's position. And again, we have time management. This is going to appear on every single speech, time management, because each speaker has a lot of different jobs. So we have, that's how important it is. You need to stick within your time limits. So can I please get Ben this time? 11 years old.
Yes.
Excellent. Can I get you please to read this example speech? So this is an example of how the second proposition speaker might structure their speech.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, respected judges and worthy opponents, as the second speaker of the affirmative team, I stand proudly to reiterate and further strengthen our case in favor of the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. Recapping the arguments forth by our first speaker, we firmly establish that the world faces an urgent climate crisis that demands immediate action. Renewable energy sources offer a viable situation to mitigate the impact of climate change and transition towards the sustainable future. Allow me to reinforce our key argument and respond to the counter arguments presented by the negative team. Firstly, our reliance on fossil fuels perpetuates carbon emissions and exacerbates global warming. The evidence is clear and undeniable. Greenhouse gas emissions are causing irreparable to our planet, increasing the use of renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydroelectric power will significantly reduce carbon emissions and combat the dire consequences of climate change. We must prioritize the health of our environment and future generation over the short-term convenience of fossil fuels. In response to the negative team's claim that renewables are unreliable, we acknowledge that while intermittent energy generation can pose challenges, advancements in energy storage technologies are rapidly addressing this concern. Innovations like grid-scale batteries, pumped hydro storage, enhance the stability and reliability of renewable energy supply, ensuring a consistent power source for all our energy needs. Moreover, with modernization and smarter energy management systems enable us to efficiently integrate renewables into our existing energy infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Secondly, the financial investment required to transition to renewable energy is an investment in our future. Yes, the initial costs can be significant, but the long-term benefits far outweigh them. Studies consistently show that the economic advantages of renewable energy adoption, such as reduced healthcare costs, job creation, and energy saving, offset the upfront expenses. We must recognize the economic opportunities inherent in the renewable technologies and seize the chance to be at the forefront of the green energy revolution. Addressing the negative themes concerned about rare materials used in renewable technology and production. We acknowledge that responsible sourcing and recycling practices are essential. However, we must not overlook the severe environmental degradation, such as fossil fuel extraction, oil spills, deforestation, and air pollution are just a few examples of devastating consequences of our current energy sources. Embracing renewables is a step towards cleaner production and a more sustainable world. Lastly, we appreciate the importance of transitioning technologies, but we cannot afford to delay decisive action. Decisive action. While advancements in clean coal and natural gas are valuable, they still contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. We must prioritize a rapid transition to renewable energy sources while exploring ways to make these transitional technologies cleaner and more efficient. In conclusion, the affirmative team firmly believes that significantly increasing the use of renewable energy sources is not just a matter of choice, it's an obligation to safeguard our planet and future generations. The time for decisive action is now. By embracing renewable energy, we can combat climate change, enhance energy reliability, create economic opportunities, and protect our environment. We urge the argument and esteemed judges, the audience, and esteemed judges to support the affirmative team's position and pave the way for a brighter and sustainable future. Thank you.
Very good, Ben. Thank you very much. Okay. So, Chips, you and your emoji food parties. So, what I'll do now is, because we only got through three of those speakers during the lesson. So what I'll do is I'm going to continue to read I'm going to continue to read these out and read the speeches for the recording. So you guys can go back and check the recording to finish this lesson. But those of you that would still like to hang around and go through this with me are welcome to stay as well. But I'm going to finish this recording for you guys to be able to check afterwards. And next Monday, we're going to have our second practice debate. So that's why I wanted to show you guys how these speeches, I'll go into more detail about how these speeches should be structured.
Monday, you mean now Monday next week we'll have another debate?
Yep, in our class on Monday next week, we're going to have our second debate. So I'll post the teams and the topic this week. I'll post them today. And if anyone's not able to be in class next Monday, please let me know as soon as possible so I can update the teams, work out who's going to be the helper on this one. Yeah, I'm going to work out who's going to be the helper if we need one, who's going to be who's going to be on what teams. So if anybody does need to leave now, you can feel free to. But anyone that would like to stick around and continue going through these last few speeches and the parts that they need, you're also more than welcome to stay in the call and do that
I
with
will
me.
let everyone play Blue Cat.
You can arrange to play Blue Cat after I'm done with this, or anyone that would like to go and play Blue Cat, you can go and play Blue Cat now. Okay, so I'm going to continue on now. We're up to the speech for the second speaker of the negative team. And this is the general structure that you want to take for that speech. And I'd like to have a go at reading one of these speeches. It looks like fun. So first of all, again, we need the introduction. So we need to greet the audience, the judges, and acknowledge the opposing team. We need to once again state the motion and your team's position, this time, in this case being against the motion and being against the topic. And we need to remind the audience, of the arguments that were made by the first speaker of our team. We need to, like the previous speaker, we need to reinforce and expand our team's arguments. So we need to remind again the audience of the arguments that were made by the first speaker. We need to provide more evidence, more examples, more statistics to strengthen your team's position. And you need to clarify any points that may have been challenged by the affirmative team in the previous speeches. Next, you need to address the affirmative arguments. So you need to respond to the arguments that have been made by the affirmative team in their speeches. You need to offer reasoned refutations why they're wrong, and you need to offer evidence to demonstrate the weakness in their arguments. And then you need to highlight any inconsistencies or lack of evidence in the affirmative team's case. So this is where it's important to pay attention to what the other team says, because if you notice that they didn't provide evidence for one of their arguments, or you notice that something that they've said just doesn't make sense and you want to challenge it, this is your time to do that. Again, we need to present new evidence and more examples. And we need to introduce new evidence or examples that further make your team's case stronger. We need to ensure that the evidence is credible and relevant to the debate topic. So remembering what we were talking about, make sure your evidence comes from a very reliable source and make sure that it has to do with the topic of the debate. And then again, we want to connect that new evidence to the existing arguments to create a more comprehensive case. So you want to make your team's argument stronger by connecting your evidence back to the arguments made by your previous speakers. It's like compounding, doubles and triples its strength. We want to talk about the impact and significance. So we want to explain the potential consequences of accepting the affirmative team's position. What's going to happen if we are so quick to jump into this renewable energy sources? You want to highlight the challenges and the unintended consequences that may arise from their solutions. So is there something bad that could happen if we were to adopt the proposition team's arguments? Even if they didn't mean for it to happen, is there something bad that could happen? Bring that up, weaken their case. And we want to emphasize the potential risks and uncertainties associated with a drastic shift towards renewable energy. So in this case, because of the topic, what are the risks involved with adopting the motion, basically? What could go wrong if we were to agree with the proposition? Next, again, of course, we want the rebuttal preparations. So we want to anticipate the potential counter arguments from the, we want to, in this case, not even anticipate, but we want to prepare rebuttals against the counter arguments from the second speaker. And you want to show that the negative team has considered the viewpoint again of the opponent so that you can rebut it effectively. Oh, goodness. The more I talk, the more I yawn. So next, for our conclusion, we want to summarize the key points that were made in the speech. And you want to remind everybody of your team's stance on the motion and why it's important. And then, of course, you want to encourage the audience and the judges to reject the affirmative team's position. And of course, time management. You want to pay attention to the time limits and ensure your speech fits within your time. Okay, here's an example speech for the second opposition speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and honorable opponents, as the second speaker of the negative team, I rise to reinforce our position against the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. Recapping the arguments presented by our first speaker, we have emphasized the practical challenges and potential drawbacks of solely relying on renewable energy sources. We firmly contend that while renewable energy is a vital component of our energy future, it cannot be the sole solution to address the complex global energy needs. Allow me to further strengthen our case and address the arguments put forth by the affirmative team. The affirmative team asserts that increasing the use of renewable energy will significantly reduce carbon emissions and combat climate change. While we share the common goal of environmental sustainability, we believe that an exclusive focus on renewables overlooks the broader picture. Transitioning away from fossil fuels requires a balanced approach that considers all available options, including cleaner technologies like natural gas. Oh, goodness. Like natural gas and nuclear energy. By combining a diverse range of energy sources, we can achieve greater emissions reductions without jeopardizing energy security. In response to the affirmative team's claim that renewable energy technologies are becoming more reliable, we acknowledge the progress made in this field. However, it is crucial to recognize that challenges still persist, especially in the context of large-scale energy demand. The intermittent nature of renewables requires significant investments in energy storage and grid infrastructure. These costs are often overlooked and constrain national budgets, potentially leading to higher energy prices for consumers. Furthermore, the affirmative team argues that renewable energy will lead to job creation and economic growth. While it is true that the renewable energy sector has seen growth, we must also consider the potential. By the way, if you were debating, it's a very bad idea to sit there and yawn like I am. While it is true that the renewable energy sector has seen growth, we must also consider the potential negative impact on traditional energy industries. Heavy reliance on renewables could lead to job losses in fossil fuel dependent regions, affecting livelihoods and communities. We must strike a balance between embracing clean energy and supporting the transition of workers in affected industries. Addressing the affirmative team's concern about environmental consequences, we acknowledge the importance of responsible energy production. However, the assertion that renewables are entirely free of environmental impact is misleading. The production and disposal of renewable technologies also generates waste and utilize resources that require careful management and consideration. In conclusion, the negative team firmly believes that a balanced energy strategy is necessary to address our global energy challenges. While renewable energy is a critical component of the future, it cannot be implemented in isolation. We must carefully weigh the benefits and drawbacks of all available energy sources and promote an inclusive approach that ensures a stable, reliable, and sustainable energy future. We urge the audience and esteemed judges to reject the motion and support our comprehensive energy vision. Thank you. So again, there we see all of the components of a good second opposition speech. And we see again the formal language and the good structure used in a debate speech. Peace. I agree with Ben. Oh, you guys. Okay, so now we're up to the third proposition speaker, the final speaker in the debate. So first of all, of course, we need our introduction. We need to greet the audience, judges, and acknowledge the opposing team. Remind the audience of the motion and the team's position. So in this case, we agree. And we need to summarize the key arguments presented by the first and second speaker. So we need to reiterate the main arguments presented by the previous speakers, provide a short, straight to the point summary of the evidence and examples that support each argument. And we need to emphasize the coherence and strength of the affirmative team's case. So this is just the part where you point out how well your team has argued together, how well you've presented arguments and evidence. Oh goodness, my apologies. So yeah, we need to, we need to emphasize how well we've worked together and how much sense our case has made. We need to address the arguments made by the negative team in their speeches. We need to offer clear rebuttals to refute their points. And we need to demonstrate how the affirmative team's case remains. Sorry, I'll say that one again. So we need to show how the affirmative team's case is still strong and still well constructed, even though the negative team has made their best attempts to make our case look weak. You need to showcase that your team has a superior position on the motion. So you need to show why it's better to believe the motion than reject it. We need to highlight the unique benefits and the advantages of adopting, in this case, renewable energy sources. And we need to illustrate how our team, how the solutions that we've provided will have a better outcome than sticking with fossil fuels. Next, we need to talk about the impact and the significance. So we need to reinforce the importance of taking immediate action to combat climate change. or whatever the topic may be, we need to show the importance of taking immediate action in agreeing with the motion. We need to explain the positive impact that agreeing with the motion will have, particularly on a global scale, if that's the sort of issue we're debating. And we need to really emphasize how adopting renewable energy aligns with all. So this one here, emphasize how adopting renewable energy aligns with international commitments to reduce emissions and protect the environment. So again, we're just talking about on a bigger scale as possible, how will agreeing with the motion and adopting actions to agree with the motion, how will that affect the planet? How will that affect your local community? How will that affect your country? Just whatever scale you're arguing on, that's what you need to prove. Next, we need to address the practicality and feasibility. So you need to acknowledge any legitimate concerns raised by the negative team regarding the practicality of adopting the motion. So whatever the motion is, you do need to acknowledge some of the downsides of agreeing with the motion. And you need to offer evidence and expert opinions that support that support the adoption of the motion. So you can't just be like, well, our side is absolutely perfect. There's no way ever that anyone could ever say anything bad about what we've agreed with. You need to go, yeah, I mean, there are these issues here, but then also we've got this evidence to show all of the positive effects of it too. And there's way more positive than there is negative. You need to anticipate any counter arguments made by the final negative speaker. And you need to show that the affirmative team is prepared to counter any last minute challenges from the negative team. And in conclusion, again, summarize the key points made in the speech made by the entire affirmative team. You need to once more finally reiterate your team's stance on the motion and its importance on the future moving forward. And finally, you need to urge the audiences and the judge to support your team's position and agree with the motion, whatever that may be. And of course, time management. Get it all done and get it all done nice and quickly within your time limit. Can I have some of your $200,000 chips?
No,
Oh, please.
I am kidding. Here you are.
Oh, thanks. I have all the money.
It is in your bank account.
You're the best. Thanks, Chips. Okay, can I please get Jenny? Can you please read this example speech?
Okay. So, can you hear me?
Pardon?
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished judges and respected opponents, as the third speaker of the affirmative team, I rise to conclude our compelling case in support of the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. Throughout this debate, we have presented a cohesive and robust argument in favor of transitioning to renewable energy sources. Allow me to reinforce our key points and address the concerns raised by the negative team. First, we firmly establish that climate change is an imminent threat that demands urgent action. The overwhelming scientific consensus supports the link between human activities and global warming. By significantly increasing the use of renewable energy,
we can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, slow down the pace of climate change, and protect our planet for future generations. Addressing the negative team's claim about the reliability of renewable energy, we acknowledge that some challenges exist. However, technological advancements and innovative solutions are already addressing these concerns. Grid modernization, energy storage technologies, and smart energy management systems are overcoming the intermittency of renewables and ensuring a stable energy supply. Furthermore, the negative team's concerns about jobs. The negative teams argue that the transitions to renewables would entail substantial upfront costs. While it is true that the initial investments might be significant, we must consider the long-term benefits and costs of inaction. Failing to address climate change will lead to far more devastating economic consequences, including increased extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and disruptions to food and water supplies. In response to the negative team's concerns about job losses in traditional energy sectors, we recognize the importance of a just and inclusive transition. Governments and businesses can invest in retraining programs and support the workforce in transitioning to renewable energy industries. The renewable energy sector itself offers significant job opportunities, and research suggested that clean energy investments create more jobs per dollar invested than fossil fuel industries. Furthermore, we cannot afford to ignore the global consensus and commitments to combat climate change. The Paris Agreement and other international accords underscore the urgency of adopting renewable energy solutions. Embracing renewable energy demonstrates our commitment to a sustainable future and positions us as leaders in the global fight against climate change. In conclusion, the affirmative team has presented a compelling case that emphasizes the urgent need to shift towards renewable energy sources. By significantly increasing the use of renewables, we can combat climate change, ensure energy security, create economic opportunities, and protect the environment for generations to come. I urge the esteemed judges and audience to stand with the affirmative team in supporting this critical motion. Together, we can pave the way for a greener, cleaner, and more sustainable future. Thank you.
Beautifully read, Jenny. Thank you very much. Okay, so we see there how summarizing the case and acknowledging, and acknowledging the arguments made by the other team, it gives us a chance to present just one last set of counter arguments to further strengthen your own case. Emma's handing out the bento boxes now. I keep checking the chat box thinking that there's going to be some important question or someone said something, but it's all just food and food emojis. Okay, now it's time for the final speech in a debate, the third speaker of the opposition team. So we want the introduction, of course, again, greet the audience, judges, and acknowledge the opposing team. Remind the audience of the motion and that your team is negative and against the motion. And you want to summarize the key arguments presented by the first two speakers on your team. You want to reinforce and summarize the arguments. So again, reiterate the main arguments presented by your previous speakers. Provide a short and straight to the point summary of the evidence and examples that support each argument. So there's no need to bring up the study and the year and the this and the that. You can just say, we had a study that showed that that here's the evidence that supports our case. And you want to emphasize the fact that your team's argument was coherent and that it was strong. So all three members of the team worked together and that you created as strong a case as possible. You really want to emphasize that fact. You want to address the affirmative team's arguments. So address the arguments made by the affirmative teams in their speeches and offer clear rebuttals to refute the affirmative team's points. And demonstrate how the negative team's case remains strong despite the challenges offered by the proposition team. So we then move on to highlighting the negative team's advantages. So you want to show that your team had the superior position on the motion. You want to show the audience and the judges the problems. Yes.
Can you speed up, please?
Yeah, sure. If you need to go, you can just go and just check out the remaining of this recording on YouTube.
Yeah, teacher. Goodbye, teacher.
Yeah. See you, Ben. Thank you for coming today.
Bye bye.
So we also
I'm leaving.
bye,
too.
Emma.
Bye bye.
No worries. Bye. So yeah, if you guys need to go, you can go. Just make sure you check out
can
the
look
rest
in
of this
the
recording
chat
on
and
YouTube.
See what I have sent.
Oh, money, money, money. See you, Emma, if you need to go. Okay, so where were we? So you need to illustrate the problems and you need to illustrate any risks of accepting the motion. And you need to explain how the negative team's solution, how your arguments provide a better solution to the problem, and that it's more practical and it's a more balanced approach. So basically you need to show that your arguments make more sense than the other team. You need to talk about the impact and significance. So you need to remind everybody why it's important to adopt your side of the argument rather than believing the proposition team. You need to explain any potential consequences of adopting the motion. And again, so why is believing the proposition team a bad idea? Why is it better to believe your team as negative? And then you need to emphasize how your team's approach is just, again, a better fit. So point out why their side is wrong, point out why your side is right. That's the be all and end all of that. Again, you need to acknowledge that your side of the argument is not 100% perfect. There are still going to be a few problems with your side of the argument. However, again, point out that there is more benefit to agreeing with you and less risk. So it works out better to believe in your team, and you need to show that there's more risk and less benefit to agreeing with the other team. You need to offer, again, evidence and expert opinions that support your view of the motion or support your team's stance on the motion. And you need to argue, again, that it is better to believe your team's solution and to adopt your team's solution to the issue. So because you are the final speaker of the whole debate, you don't need to anticipate anything, but you get one final chance to offer some counter arguments to the third affirmative speaker. Show them that the negative team is prepared to counter any last-minute challenges from the final affirmative speaker. And for your conclusion, again, summarize your team's key points. Remind the judge and the audience that your team is negative, you're against the motion. And then urge the audience and the judges to support your team's motion. And of course, time management. Keep it all within the time limit you've been given to speak. Star, would you like to read this final speech for us, please?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judge and worthy opponents, as the third speaker of the negative team, I rise to conclude our strong case against the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increases. Throughout this debate, we have presented a balanced and pragmatic approach to address the global energy challenge. Allow me to reinforce our key point and address the arguments put forth by the affirmative team. The affirmative team has rightly emphasized the urgency of combating climate change. We share the concern of the environment and future generation. However, our contention lies in the inclusive focus on renewable energy source. While renewable play a crucial role in a sustainable energy future, they cannot be the sole solution to our energy needs. Addressing the affirmative team's claim that renewable energy can reliably meet our demands, reliably meet our demands, we acknowledge the progress made in energy storage and grid technologies. However, the challenge of intermittency remains, especially in regions with limited renewable resources. A sudden and rapid transition to renewable could lead to energy shortage and grid instability, risking economic disruption and compromising energy security. Furthermore, we must consider the economic implication of a rapid transition to renewable. The negative team believe in a balanced energy strategy that support traditional
True.
energy sector while gradually integrating cleaner alternative. Avoiding phasing out fossil fuels could lead to job losses and economic downturns in regions heavily reliant on this industry. A just and inclusive transition must be prioritized to protect livelihoods and avoid social upheaval. Addressing the affirmative team concerns about environmental impact, traditional energy sources. We recognize the need for responsible energy production. The negative team advocates for continued advancement in clean technologies like carbon capture and storage. We can significantly reduce emissions from fossil fuel-based power plants. A balanced approach allows us to address environmental concerns without diminishing the practical challenge of transitioning entirely to renewable. Moreover, the negative team has presented a practical and balanced case that prioritizes energy security, economic
stability, and environmental responsibility. While we appreciate the benefit of renewable energy, we urge the audience and esteemic judge to consider the feasibility of significant increasing the use of renewable without jeopardizing other essential aspects of our energy system. Together, we can forge a sustainable energy future that combines cleaner technologies with responsible resource management. Thank you.
Very well done, Star. Thank you. Okay, so that sums up our all 6 of the positions during a debate. And so all the key points that you need to include in your speech and an example of a speech with those points in it. So yeah, next Monday in debate class, we're going to have your next practice debate. So I am going to post I'm going to post your topic and post the teams. And I want you guys to read those documents that I've posted in the Zalo group about how to construct your speech and use that as an example to write brilliant speeches for your next debate. Remember to, again, communicate with your teammates, and yeah, let's really, really nail this debate with some wonderful speeches. So thank you guys for staying back after time to hear the rest of the speech. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Goodbye. I guess
teacher.
I
See
have
you
to play
Wednesday.
solo blue cat.
I think so.